Hello everyone, welcome to the final project for EGR 305. This is our Lykan Hypersport. My name is Kenneth, and here's a picture of me, and I will begin the video presentation. So these are just a few of the parts that I had to model for the project. So here is the car seat, the hood, the headlight, the cabin frame, the cabin interface, and the dashboard. There's also the charging cable, the gear shift, the spoiler, the steering wheel, the underframe, and the hatchet. I will begin by discussing one of the more complex parts that I had to design for this project, which was the car seat. So there were many complexities that went into the designing of this part, and I will go through the steps that I took to model the part. So I began by creating a profile sketch and extruding it in generative shape design. I then used the spline tool to create a spline from this edge of the profile to this edge of the profile. However, one of the few things that I had to learn was the tangency and the tension within the spline tool. Here I had to create a separate line that was off an angle so that I could give tangency to the first point here and the second point here. And once the tangency was given, to get the exact shape of the curve that was appropriate for the actual car seat, I had to change the tension on the spline itself. So as you can see right here, I gave it a 0.5 tension. Next, I used the fill tool to actually fill in the side portion of the seat. Initially, when I started filling in the side portion of the seat, the shape was not exactly what was desired. So I actually created a separate multi-section surface here that I would use as the support for the side of the seat. And after playing around with the multi-section itself, I was able to get the desired shape. Then I mirrored the part and I hid the multi-section in the back that I used as the support. After that, I was able to give surface edge fillets to the corners of the seat to give it a more aesthetic look. After this, I used the thick surface tool to give the surface a thickness of 2.5 millimeter, and this was done after all the surfaces were joined. And this was the final product. Next, I want to just kind of brush over the development of the hood. The hood was developed by making an initial profile sketch, which can be seen right here. And then points were created off of the sketch, and splines and lines were created on the points. Once the lines were created, a combination of multi-section as well as the fill tool was used to get the desired surface and the desired look for the hood. The next portion I would want to talk about is the steering wheel. The main portion I wanted to discuss in the steering wheel was how I was able to design the same type of part with two different tools from two different workbenches. The first one I used was the multi-section on the top part of the frame. And then for the second portion, I was able to use the rib for the bottom part. As you can see here, when I used the rib tool actually cut off right here, and I had to click the merge rib ends. And this way I was able to complete the top and the bottom using two different tools from two different workbenches.
Hello, my name is Hamad, and I'll be talking about two of the more complex parts that I had to make. So first, I'll be going over the trunk. So this part was made in both GST and part design workbench. So in part design workbench, the first step was to draw up the base sketch, which comprises this edge on the far side of the trunk. Once this was done, that sketch was translated to a distance of about this edge to this edge, so that you had two base sketches. And then features were added to the second sketch so that they were representing the far edge of the trunk. Once I had two sketches, I connected the two of them using multi-section and using splines as guide curves, which can be seen here. And once that was done, this part was converted to a solid using closed surface tool. Once the part was made into a full solid, all these cutouts that you see over here were incorporated into the design. But however, once the part was finalized and the main frame of the car was developed, we realized that the trunk did not really fit well into the car, and due to the time constraints, the trunk was not included in the main assembly. However, the cutout that was intended for the trunk was modified so that it had a fill surface that mimicked the trunk. The next part that I wanted to go over was the remote control. The remote control was unique in the fact that this was one of the few parts in this project that solely utilized the part design workbench. However, it used pretty much every single tool that is out there in the standard tools in the part design workbench. For example, it has pads that go from the base sketch all the way up to this top surface right here. Circular pads that are used to build up this feature on the side. Pocket tool that is used to make these cutouts over here. And edge fillets, as you can see, the small edge fillets over here, which were less than 0.25 millimeter, I believe.
Hey, I'm Ryan Conahan, and I'll be talking about the main body frame of our EGR 1305 final project. So here's the main body frame. It primarily composes of GSD toolbar with a few part design pads and pockets here and there. So to start this part, we went through a lot of trial and error. Originally, we started with making it 3 parts. However, we discovered that GSD parts that need to be connected do not blend well together. So instead, So to actually make this, we made it in 1 part file. However, we divided it up into 3 different sections. So we start with the midsection, and from the midsection start the roof. The roof composed mainly of spline tool, and then from the roof worked on the side of the car, which was also spline tool with the addition of coordinate points. After doing that, we filled that and thickened it. And as you can see right here is the thickened product. After thickening it, we mirrored it on the center axis, and we continued this process for the other 2 sections of the car. You can see it right here that it blends very well in with the center, the back portion, and then we mirrored that section as well, and that blends very well with the rest of the part. We did the same for the front, and then we added the colors that matches the color design of the Lykan Hypersport. The last thing that was done was to add the windshield, which was originally going to be a separate part, but as said earlier, getting GSD parts to form well does not work well. So we filled the cutout portion of the frame and then put a thickness there and colored the thickness and made it transparent to simulate a window. Overall, this is the end product of our EGR 305 final project. This is the Lykan Hypersport. Something to note about the assembly was that because this was a very GSD heavy project, GSD does not assemble very well and required an excess amount of planes on GSD parts to actually have them constrained well together. Overall, it was a challenging but great project. This has been Ryan Conahan. Thank you for listening.